Hello, my name is Para Big D Senpai, and I'm here to save you from the hell that is leveling in PoE right now, because while leveling was tough last patch, it's 10 times harder this patch. And with that, I'm sharing my top 10 tips to make it slightly less insufferable. Or if you're following all of the tips, it may even become fun.
Are you fucking
Starting
serious?
with tip number 1, that also happens to be the most important one, we need to find you a leveling build that doesn't suck ass. Because this patch doesn't really allow for experimentation unless you want to get your ass whooped, and also because there are a bunch of trash builds out there that will make your life a living hell. So how do you go on about finding an actual build? Well, for starters, unless you know for a certain that a content creator is an absolute goat,
Hey guys.
you need to avoid prediction builds released before the league launch like the fucking plague, which is easy to do. Just take a look at when it's released, if it has been updated since the launch, and look for actual gameplay that both involves clearing and bossing. If the build doesn't impress you, look elsewhere. And where do you actually find the best builds? Well, I recommend two sources, YouTube and Mobalytics. Finding builds on YouTube is painstakingly annoying unless you've already have your favorite creators, but it's insanely rewarding simply because you get to view some actual gameplay of how the build functions. And when it comes to Mobalytics, the best place to find builds is via their tier list for the end game and the starting builds tab, as you'll have a bunch of the largest PoE creators uploading their builds here. And ideally, you'll find one of the builds with an attached video guide or Twitch, so you can see for yourself if it looks like an impressive build. I'd say that these tips are the most important ones to make the leveling experience smooth and easy. Moving on to the next tip, we have another preparation step before playing, and that is get a goddamn loot filter. Skimming through every goddamn trash item, Elon Musk style, will waste you tons of hours.
He's thinking. Oh, one thing. Really kind of. Ooh, he's really thinking about this one.
And getting a functional loot filter is extremely easy. Simply go to the Filterblade website, where you can download NeverSync's filters, bookmark that shit, and log in. You then press the Create button and select how strict you want your filter to be. For example, while leveling early, you may select one of the less strict ones. And after progressing a while, it's extremely easy to just swap for a strict one. You can also add your own sounds and customize it further if you choose. For example, I've added Sasha Grey getting railed for when I drop a mirror. You then simply export, pick a name, and enter the game. You'll then find it under the Gameplay tab, and you're done. Enjoy your time saved. For tip number 3, we have a few trading tips. If you're new, then trading is done via the official trading website. But I do have few tips here that will make your life way easier. For starters, don't waste your currencies. And what do I mean by that? Well, shit. Rather than just slamming all of your currencies at once, make sure to save some to upgrade your weapons, for example, especially if you manage to find an exalted orb while leveling, because let's just assume you accidentally specced into a clickbait bullshit Huntress build on YouTube, and now you're stuck in Act 3. So, let's find yourself a spear. You then scroll down and set max level to your current level. Set the maximum price to whatever you can afford. You then search and sort by highest physical damage generally. If you're looking for something in particular, for example, if you need to have lightning damage on your spear to shock enemies, then you go for Add Filter and add lightning damage to your filter. You'll have to know your way around the trading website if you want to succeed in the endgame, but for leveling up, this is pretty much all you need to know, but only if you follow the next step. And that, my friend, is to actually read the fucking build guide you followed earlier, or if you made one yourself, know what stats you are looking for. Generally, while leveling up, flat damage is the most important for all martial weapon users, as that decides your base damage that all of your other damage modifiers are based on. And with that, I mean that all your passive skill points and support gems are simply added on top of your base damage. This is, however, not true for spellcasters and minion builds, where you generally want skill ranks for spells and spirit for minions, just to name a few. But to not make the wrong decision when purchasing gear or crafting, just read through the damn guide, will you? Because if you don't, the next tip won't help you. And that tip is, craft correctly. That generally means, don't waste your fucking currency. As previously mentioned, the weapons are the core of most builds, and you should always make sure that you have enough currency to keep your weapon up to date, saving your currency for the items that has good bases, or rather, a buttload of base damage generally. The second most important item is typically the boots, but only important here is that you get your movement speed up. If you then have a bunch of currency left, then you are free to start slamming them onto the rest of your gear to get your defensives up. But personally, the only currency I would not use for crafting early is exalted orbs, due to how much value you can get from trading via these. One exalted orbs can set you up for success during the next 10 levels, which is a lot more valuable than just slamming them onto an item you'll replace soon anyways. For the next tip, this is tied to the crafting and loot filter ones, because there are a few currencies we gain by salvaging and disenchanting items. Namely, this is a great source of crafting materials, upgrading materials, and sockets. So here's an easy routine. For every rare item you find that you won't use, you slap them into the meat grinder and disenchant it. And for every item that has either a socket or quality on it, you salvage them. And this is where the loot filter comes in handy, because a good filter will highlight any item with sockets or quality, making sure that you never miss them while leveling up. And what should you use the quality and sockets on then? Well, the item quality I would use on an item that I know for a certain I won't replace for a while. And for the socket, I would always prioritize the weapon, especially if you're playing a build that's not utilizing spells. And speaking of sockets, here's a quick but important tip. If you find some decent runes, use the ones with base damage during the early levels and socket them into your weapon. This will make your damage skyrocket. And which ones of the base damage should you use? Well, shit. Glad you asked, because this is also important. Unless you require fire or cold damage for your build and only stack this in your passive tree. And again, read the fucking build guide, then using lightning damage is generally extremely useful. This is due to shock, granting you a flat 20% additional damage, making freeze and ignite trash in comparison, unless you absolutely need them. And in case you have sockets and runes to spare, which you probably don't, but you never know, you should definitely prioritize getting your resistances up. Alright,
Nice.
Next up, we have utilize the vendors. Because the vendors are your best friends during the campaign. You always want to make sure to skim through the vendors to see what they have to offer. If it's your first playthrough and you don't have a bunch of gold, then I'd make sure that you first have the highest flasks available and upgrade them via your crafting materials. Then, you want to look for some decent gear. Weapons are of course the most important if you manage to find a good one, but finding some decent rares with a bunch of resistances or max life here will make your life way easier throughout the campaign. The vendors reset each level, so you want to continuously want to keep track of what they have to offer. The only vendor I'd skip is the gambling guy unless you have a bunch of gold to spare, as the items there are expensive as shit. But of course, if you have the gold to spare, then definitely feel free to splurge some gold on the gamba machine. Next up on the agenda, we have a big one, and that is utilize the weapon swapping. Because I see so many people just mindlessly walking around like zombies when you can just shield charge your way through all the early content to save huge amounts of time. This is a must, and it's easy to set up. So, let me show you how to set up a weapon swap shield charge. First off, you need a shield charge gem. The higher the better, right? Fuck no. Grab the lowest one available. This will lower the requirements and make it spend less mana. You won't use it for damage, it's only there for utility. And the only support gem I'm using here is utilized to get a lower cooldown. Next, you need an expensive and high damage weapon and a great shield, right? Fuck no. Just grab the shittiest weapon and shield you can find from the vendor. Because again, this lowers the requirements to be used. Sadly, if you've leveled up already, then the vendor only sells higher level items that we can't use. Are we screwed? No. Just make a level 1 character, purchase a one-handed mace and shield from the vendor, and throw it in the stash to pick up. Alright. And when this is done, you simply set all your skills to use weapon set one apart from your shield charge. And now, my friends, you're ready to shield charge through all content and save a bunch of time. And for the final tip of the day, it's get all the power you can while leveling up. Okay, Mr. Paragaming Big D Senpai, and what the hell does that mean? It means 2 things. First, if you've leveled up earlier, then you need to know this tip because it will make or break your run, and that is, get all of the permanent buffs for the love of God. Do this while you're going through the zones. All the permanent buffs are marked by a plus. And secondly, don't be afraid to go back and grab a few additional levels before continuing. Because if you're hitting a roadblock, keep dying, and can't progress, then you're just wasting your time. Go back to an earlier zone, farm out a few levels, check out the vendors, and then continue leveling. It's worth it. And that, my friends, are my top 10 tips. I could continue, but let's leave it at an even number. Drop a sub, and I'll see you in the next one.